started then. Welcome to everybody that's here tonight. Tonight we're going to get a little bit of a talk about wildfire and wildfire safety. And as the first slide talks about, be prepared when a wildfire hits. So we're going to do a lot of discussion. It's got a lot of question and answer, back and forth for everybody. Feel free to, I've got a couple extra folks that have some background in wildland fire. We've got Cole Lindsay in the back. He's one of our volunteers, works for ODF. And then I see we've got a guest from Garibaldi, the interim fire chief from Garibaldi, Blake Paulson. He's got a little bit of a background in wildland fire. Even wearing the right pants today, I see. So we're going to talk a lot about preparedness for wildfires. We'll talk a little bit about causes of wildfires. We'll talk about how to defend your property from wildfires, some of the programs that are currently being enacted in Rockaway, and anything you guys kind of want to talk about regards to wildland, we can probably answer tonight. So we'll start with preparation and how prepared you are. So what do you as an audience know about wildfire? What comes to your mind when you think of wildfires? Anybody? Mary?
I personally think more of wildfires being not in town, but out, like, say, the forest behind us.
Okay.
I did have a meeting with you and someone from the State Fire Marshal's office, so I've learned that definition needs to be expanded a little.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll have some information on that after tonight about what our next steps are. So anybody else? What do you think? Mary?
So what recently happened in Los Angeles,
Okay.
wildfires can devastate areas you never in a million years thought would be destroyed by a wildfire.
Interesting thought.
Lived down there, I've driven in those areas, and I would have never thought that would happen there.
Okay, we can talk about that some tonight too. At the Chiefs Conference, the fire chief from Orange County was there and gave his perspective on that whole issue down there. That was quite an event. Anybody else? Scott.
Well, Alameda Fire, Labor Day weekend 2020. My kids who lived in Phoenix, outside of Medford at the time, got a call 15 minutes that they had to evacuate. They managed to get their pets, their vehicles, and my son-in-law got his computer because he was working from home, being the pandemic, and they fled. They had 15 minutes. The whole house burned to the ground. I went by later on, like 6 months later, and it looked like Dresden in World War II. It was rubble.
And we'll talk about that was part of being prepared, and we'll talk about that ready, set, go, and how that all works. And so those are some good questions, and hopefully with some of these slides as we go through, we'll please save your questions or think of your questions, and we can go Nancy, go ahead.
Speaking of 2020 census, the local people with big plows and all that kind of stuff saved us because regular farmers, they just kicked in and they stopped it, and who knew? So engagement within the whole community.
There's all kinds of issues exactly like that and stories like that. So, okay, so wildfire in Oregon, obviously a big deal the last few years. Last year, just so you know, we burned about 1.9 million acres in Oregon. And that translated into how do we suppress wildfires? What's the state's response? Obviously, you have local fire departments, which you see here. We take care of local. And as those incidents expand, how does that work? What happens? What are the steps to get to these big fires where you see all the federal firefighters or the big air tankers and all that? How's that progress? Well, Oregon is taken probably the most proactive stance in the nation. I'll contend in the nation of how to combat wildfire. The State Fire Marshal's office takes it very serious. So does the state legislature. And right now, we do things like they call pre-positioning. So if we know that it's gonna be really hot, like in Southern Oregon with a high chance of lightning strikes, we'll pre-position task forces of engines in those areas. We have things with immediate response. So if there's happen to be a fire like last year in Gaston, we were on what they call immediate response. We put a task force together in Tillamook County, sent them over to Washington County to help out. We have the Conflagration Act. So if it gets large enough in scale, we send it teams, which last year we had 17 different conflagrations in the state of Oregon. We'll send teams or partial teams, or we did like we did to California and send strike teams around to help protect structures during these big wildland fires. So there's a lot of resources. It includes the summer staffing grant, which we received here in Rockaway, and we'll hire 2 seasonal firefighters. Well, it gives, I think it was 190 fire departments this year received grants. That translates into almost 400 firefighters, give or take, in the state to enhance our response to these fires. We also do some pre-planning, like Councilor McGinnis and myself. We met with State Fire Marshal's office, and we're starting to do a community wildfire mitigation plan, and we'll be taking the steps to reduce our wildfire risk. So there's all these things in place, let alone the State Fire Marshal's office, I forgot this, added 76 engines across the state, water tenders and fire engines across the state. Tillamook received one to help with our response. There's all kinds of different things that we're working on. So without any further ado, when you see this picture, this is what a catastrophic wildfire can look like. You don't want to be standing where this person was taking the picture. If your house is here, you're probably in big trouble. So we like to be prepared, and we talk about getting ready and prepared. That's kind of what the gist of this meeting every month is about being prepared. No different than we're talking about the tidal wave or the tsunami that can hit us. We need to be prepared for other catastrophes too, earthquakes, other natural disasters, man-made disasters. So wildfire is just one of those things we need to be ready for. When you think about being prepared for a wildfire, what are you thinking? Anybody want to come up with that one? Discuss it? What do you think about? What comes right to mind? Go ahead, Nancy. We'll let you have first crack at this.
Sorry, fireworks, and Rockaway Beach is really serious about the fireworks thing.
Okay, so fireworks, and that's something that we're definitely working on. So catastrophic wildfire, though, what it means being prepared. What do you have to do at home? What should you have? Scott, you want us to lead us off?
We know right where our go bags are, because of course, we have to take them up every October to top third.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's there. I gotta say, there's a certain amount of comfort in knowing we just grab them, stick them in the car if we evacuate or whatever we gotta do.
Yeah, you at least have something to get you started.
Yes.
You have something. And I think that's the part about being prepared, is be ready for those things to leave in a moment's notice to get to a safe area. So we talk about, we'll start with just the subject of defensible space. And there's going to be a few slides here that show some examples of how to, what is defensible space? I guess I should define it, shouldn't I? Go ahead, Mary. Okay, go for it.
Sure. It's having the vegetation cleared away from your building. Is that defensible space?
Sure, that gives us a chance. So you don't want all the dry trees, leaves, grass right up to the back of your house. You want to give room in there where those items are removed to give us a chance to suppress that fire before it takes out your house. Which is, and I don't mean to take sides in a debate, but if you look at Southern California, and the reason some of those houses burned is they were combustible right next to each other, one after another. So I'll switch gears for just a second. And when the Orange County Fire Chief told us, is this was a wildland fire originally. It started out in the wildland, burns into the houses, then it becomes an urban conflagration, meaning the houses are burning, the structures are burning, and one structure goes to the next. They're built too close to each other, building codes, flammable outsides, and all of a sudden you lose 10,000 houses, and that's a problem. So there was no defensible space in there to get things stopped. That's the short version of that, but you need to have defensible spaces of, and we'll just show you some examples. They talk about the 0 zone, is that 0 to 5 foot where it's really green there. In the non-combustible zone, you should have exactly what it says, no combustibles within 5 feet. It means take all the leaves, the pine needles, the grass. Yeah, don't pile your firewood next to your house. Anything that's flammable, keep it away from your house, more than 5 feet. That's the first zone, that non-combustible zone. The second zone is at 5 to 30 foot. They call it lean, clean, and green zone. So trim the branches up. You keep the dry grass away. Don't stack the firewood there either. You're going to put that out in the farthest out zone, your farthest zone from the house. Lean, clean, and green. And then once you get from 30 to 100, you want to make sure you take out as much as you can, thin it, so you don't have tree to tree to tree. Keep some space in between. You can use non-combustible plants, which I should have brought a slide on that and I didn't. But there's, plant accordingly to what burns easily and what doesn't burn easily. It's another picture of how to, have your house. If you had a green grass all 30 foot around your house, you'll notice that most of those houses don't burn very well. There's such a space in between. And I know I've been on conflagrations. I know Chief Paulson's been on conflagrations. When you lose houses, what is the common denominator?
Vegetation around it.
Vegetation and fuel right up to the house. Shake roof, shake siding. You'll see open eaves. You'll see places where sparks and embers can get into these places. Keep it so you can't. Pretty simple. Like I say, ask questions as we go here, because we're going to talk about the Firewise program in particular. We kind of discussed this when the state fire marshal was here. If this community is interested in a Firewise program, this is more of a community-based program with citizens enacting this program. I don't know at this point that we need this program in this city. It is voluntary, but we can follow the recommendations of Firewise, and we can hand out that information. But I think the biggest thing we're going to be doing is our community wildfire risk assessment, and we're going to watch our interface wherever the woods are behind us, touch us, and figure out what we can do to minimize the risk of the fire getting into our town. That's where our focus will be to start with, and then if we want to enhance it as a community, we have all the abilities to be able to do that. So it talks about a handful of things. I hate reading slides on PowerPoint, but I'm going to halfway read these slides. So you want that defensible space, which we kind of already talked about. It talks about slope in that first section. Do you think slope makes any difference in wildfire, how a wildfire might move? Do you think a fire moves different on flat ground versus vertical ground? Absolutely. Topography is one of the biggest factors, even as in suppression, that we watch, because it preheats fuels. Even if it's a little wetter up on the hill, the heat will dry it out, and it makes the fire burn a little faster. Remove the dead vegetation, trim your trees, remove the leaves and pine needles from roofs, yards, gutters, even underneath the trees, anything that can carry fuel or sparks. Move your firewood out. It's amazing how many people will put firewood on their front porch, and believe it or not, that catches embers really well and enhances fire behavior. Just saying. So take vegetation along the roadways or wide driveways. Wide driveways. There's a reason I wouldn't like that part of that slide. Wide driveways. Why is a driveway or a road beneficial to have near you? It gives a little bit of space for fire. I can tell you in thinner fuels, I tell a story. When we would suppress fires in the sparser grasslands of eastern Oregon, we could use a cow trail that might only be this wide and stop a wildfire. We'd use that as a stopping point, because in short grass, it couldn't jump that whole foot. Now, if you have big trees or tall grass, that obviously was not going to happen. But it's funny how, depending on what fuel type and fuel you're in, how far it can jump or how far it can move. So driveways and roads give you a chance to be able to stop a fire. And we'll show you some illustrations of that coming up ahead. So everybody knows the story of the house of straw and sticks and bricks. Which one's the strongest? Well, even when you're talking about fire, same thing. Straw houses burn pretty easy. Stick houses burn pretty easy. But if the brick's burning, we got a problem. It's really hot. We've got issues. So, you always everything's relative to what you do, but, build accordingly. If your house is made of bricks, not going to burn. So I look at this picture. Do you think this house was built appropriately? Absolutely. It's still standing after the fire passed, isn't it? So they gave themselves, whoever built this house, a barrier all the way around that house where things couldn't burn. There's a metal roof on it. The siding, I don't know what that siding is for sure, but it's probably something that will, reflect the embers. I'm guessing all their eaves were covered up so none of them could get into any of the open spots. And guess what? They came home to a house. They might have had to flee for a few minutes because it was smoky and hot and the firefighters needed to do their job, but they came back to a house. So the next question I'll have for you is, what causes wildfires? By show of hands, what do you think causes wildfires? Lightning? Depends. I like that, Lori. Depends on what? You're right. So by show of hands, does lightning cause a lot of fires? Who says yes? Yeah, absolutely, right? We get lightning cause fires. What do you think a percentage of all the fires out there? It varies a little bit on what data you look at. What percent of fires are lightning struck caused?
I think it might depend on the location, because I know I've read around Sisters where it's really dry, they'll talk about heat lightning and
Sure.
and give out fire warnings there, but maybe that wouldn't be such a big problem here on the coast.
It can be.
It can be.
It still can be. Dry lightning causes a lot of fires. Absolutely. Some are. But what do you think? Over 50% or under 50% are lightning struck? Do you think way under or way over? I see Nancy tell me way over lightning caused. Mary tells me under. Anybody else want to vote?
Oh, I'll go with over
Just because? Over 50%? Over 50% lightning? Over 50%? What do you think? Is it over or under 50%? Oh my. Yeah, it's about 25% depending on the data that are lightning caused, and about 75% to 95% depending on where you're at are human caused. Human caused. Now, when you look, I took Oregon Department of Forestry numbers. I printed this one out because the next two slides are about it, but one's California and one's just a general number. So this is from 2013 to 2022 data. So there's 9 years of data here. 26% were lightning caused. There you go. 74% human caused. Holy cow. Well, what kind of causes are human caused? We obviously, you think of the serial arsonist. Let me see that. That was, 3% arson. 1% was juveniles. 0.3 was the railroad. Okay, so here's the numbers. 4% were from smoking. Still a pretty low number, but from smoking caused. 11%, they couldn't figure it out. 12% were recreation fires, campfires that got away. 20% were from people burning their burn barrels and debris burning. And 22% was from equipment use, whether it be logging or vehicles driving through the woods. 74% are human cause, have some kind of human cause. That seems like a ridiculous number to me, but it's true. So if I look at the next two slides, it'll show you different data than that even. So we're going to look at the cause and effect though. So human cause this is NIFC, the National Interagency Fire Center. Their data from 2001 to 12 was 85% human cause. But look at the acres burned on the left. So lightning caused fires cause bigger fires sometimes, usually because they're starting a remote area that the human can't drive with their campfire. So human caused fires caused 40% of the acres, even though 85% of the fires were human caused. So that's the cause and effect of the two and the differences. The other one was from California. And in California, and I don't know what, they didn't give this the source of this, but 95% of the fires, they said in California, were human caused. I don't know, like I say, I can't back that up. We just know that a high percentage are human caused. Go ahead, Mary. Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking a question. So a high number are human caused. So when these fires occur, and anybody been to Bend or Sisters in the last few years? What do you notice when you drive through that area? You what?
Wide open space.
Okay, so you get through Detroit. Let's use the city of Detroit. What do you notice? Anybody notice what's happened through there? What happened in 2020 in that area?
From south of or west of Detroit, it was like totally burned.
Had a catastrophic wildfire due to an east wind event, right? So you can still see the carnage over there, can't you? The just sticks of trees, and there's really nothing growing there but weeds, and it's not good, right? Why is that? Why is it not green and lush and pretty trees growing back there again? Well, there's two types of fires in there, and we're going to look at these two, and we'll look at, and we'll go back and forth to these two slides. But you have low intensity fire, we'll just say like nature intended. If you have a fire's not always bad. Fire can be a good thing. It can, as long as it goes nice and slow and burns the underbrush, it cleans up, it adds nutrients to the soil. It gives it cleans the forest up, gets rid of disease, gets rid of bugs. It does a lot of good things. It's good. And it tells you some of the things it does, but basically, low intensity fire, good. And guess what? If you get a high intensity fire, where it's total consumption, burning super hot, burning super fast, it destroys everything. It kills the trees. It kills all the vegetation. It cooks so hot it sterilizes the ground. Do you think anything grows back there? I know areas that it won't, well, I can tell you this. Hate to tell you how old I am, but in 1989 I went to the Multnomah Falls. It was one of the first conflagration fires that ever happened in Oregon. And if I go by there today, I can still show you the two ridge tops that burned when I watched it, and nothing has grown there since 1989. Those trees are still dead, dying, sticking up in the air with nothing growing underneath them. That was a high intensity fire that cooked that ground. For a full generation, nothing will grow there. So it's a concern. So we try to keep fires, if you can, in a low intensity level that burns nice and slow, does what nature intended it to do. Why'd they say the Native Americans used to burn the prairies? Why'd they do that? They burned it to get rid of the old dead grass, and that nice lush green grass would go up behind it. It's kind of nature's cycle. And now, and this is just a personal opinion, but as we let the underbrush grow and we don't manage the forest probably like we should, we end up with these catastrophic fires because the fuel loads increase, the fuels dry out, and they become these high intensity fires that cause a lot of generational damage. So that's kind of an opinion. Take it for what it's worth, but it's something that if you're interested, look it up. It's true. So questions to this point. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit more about preparedness, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end here. So how do we fight fire? I'll show you. This is just a single slide on fire suppression. If you want the whole class, we can spend a couple days teaching you how to fight fire. But this gives you kind of the overview of how we fight fire. What do we do to put out fire? Any fire. Your candle, light a piece of paper on fire, your fireplace. What happens with fire? How does it live, and how do you put it out? Anybody want to take a stab? It lives by what? It takes a couple, three things, if I remember right.
One of them's oxygen.
Oh, it takes oxygen. Yes, you're on the right track. What else did it take?
Some sort of fuel.
Oh, you need some kind of fuel. Oxygen, fuel, heat. The old fire triangle, right? The basic fire triangle. Also takes a chemical reaction that makes that burn. But those three things. So how do we fight fire? We carry those big red things carry what? Water. So that's one thing. We can cool the fire. We can do what else? Remove the oxygen. So if you ever have a candle and you stick a cup over it, the candle goes out, doesn't it? Or we can take and remove the fuel. So if you had your fireplace and you took all the logs out, or your wood out, would be nothing there left to make heat. So you took the fuel out. So we do the same thing with wildland firefighting. And I like this illustration because it tells pretty much everything we do in a single picture. So we have a couple things we do. We talked about fire breaks earlier. We can either use man-made barriers, like a road is a great barrier. The cow trail could be a great barrier. Or we build our own. You've seen the big dozers or the crews of firefighters that go out with shovels and hose and pickaxes and clear an area. Or we use natural barriers like rock walls or rivers. Rivers are great. Rock walls. My favorite's the rock walls, because you burn something to a canyon with rock. If the rock's burning, like I told you earlier, we got serious issues. So we use natural barriers, because usually the water of the lake won't burn. I say usually, because you never say never. But we have these different things. You'll notice that the one firefighter on the clear far right is using water. Is that effective? Absolutely. You have the firefighter in the middle to the right. What's he got in his hand? Anybody know what that is? It's called a drip torch. Yes. Chief helped me out there. Yes. We actually fight fire with fire. You've heard that term. This is an example of how you fight fire with fire. Because what are they doing there when they're burning? If there's an approaching fire coming down the hill and you light fire here, what happens? It takes all the fuel out. And with no fuel, guess what? It can't jump the road, it can't jump the creek, it can't jump the river, it can't jump so you burn available fuel out. This is something I've done once or twice in my career, or 200 times, but that is what we do to suppress fire. We had fire engines show up full of water, and the next day they were still full of water because we never used a drop. We spent all night or all day burning against the fire to contain it and protect it. And probably the largest suppression technique used in wildland firefighting is that right there. Burn it to natural barriers and burn out available fuel. So if it's burning right towards your house, Mayor, we're going to go right to your house, clean out a few feet, and then we'll light fire all the way around your house to burn it back into that's our ace in the hole. We always have that. And believe it or not, Rockaway Fire Department has drip torches. Just because we may need them if we get in that situation. and we're not afraid to use them if we have to. But that's fire suppression in a nutshell. Shows you all the different techniques. There's a couple pictures here. This one I liked. This is what we see at night. You know, I don't know how big that fire is. Probably could be a couple hundred acres kind of burning. And you see all the street lights, so we're obviously burning to population somewhere there. Our goal that night would be to clean up the roads. Those lights are probably dozers out working line. So you had something to burn off of and clean that up so it never touched the town. And a lot of that goes on behind the scenes and you don't even know. Until the next morning your house is still standing. You go, boy, they did a great job. They're heroes. Well, not heroes. We just did our job, but that's for another day. So that's how we suppress fires. It's very interesting. But are you ready? And I heard Scott say, yep, I have a go bag. I'm ready to go. And I hope most folks in this town, especially those that attend these meetings, most of us have a go bag and a plan. Maybe know where a few of our vital documents were. If we had to quickly grab a few vital documents in our go bag, we can do that in a hurry. So you have to ask, that's a self question for everybody here. And if you're not ready, come see us. We'll help you. We'll help you get ready. We'll help give you the tips, the tools, and the toys you might need to, you know. How long is your go bag good for? Anybody want to offer it up? 3 days? You guys go 3 days? Cole?
Yeah, we usually do a 3-day bag in the house and at least a day and a half in the cars.
There you go. Boy, ultra prepared, right? Has everybody got a go bag, or if you don't, yeah. We have go bags. Ours are 3-day bags, and then we have enough in the house, probably go another 3 weeks. But you want to keep prepared. So that's a self question. So they talk about, and you'll see this on the news a lot, about evacuation areas, and this is how they're set up to categorize these. There's 3 levels of readiness. If there's a fire in the area, for example, they may tell you to be ready. And that means make sure your go bag's easily accessible. You might have what your plan is to get out of there. If you watch California when it was really ripping, what was the biggest concern? Do you see people just almost running for their lives? That's probably, and that's how it can happen. So if you're ready, at least you can start preparing. When they go to the level 2 and be set, you can be, as soon as the sheriff is usually the one with the jurisdiction, working with the fighters, but they'll tell you, be ready to go, wait for the level 3 evacuation, then you need to get out of there. So you have everything ready, know your route, and you'll keep a constant vigil on your phone or the television or the radio. They can notify you when you need to go. And then level 3 is go now, which means they'll usually tell you where some evacuation areas are. Do you think we have this really set up here? Not really. It's something we need to talk about. I think we're, I don't want to say complacent, but we've been told we're so low risk for so long. What is our risk level here? How do you feel our risk level is in Rockaway proper? How much risk do we have?
Well, this isn't a direct answer to how much risk we have, but shortly before I moved here, there was a wildfire that came to the edge of town to Quadrant Street. Mm-hmm. And the signs were still visible of that fire when I moved here. So I don't know that we're completely safe.
There you go. And that's the answer, right answer. You ever hear the Tillamook burn? You know, you think about the 3 times that burned or the Coast Ranges burned. What were the common denominators? Hot, dry summers, east winds. Do we have a chance to have that happen this year? Well, I'll jump ahead a little bit because I was going to save this till the end. But now, what do you believe about weather the National Weather Service. Everybody has a different opinion of this. They guess the weather can be like tomorrow, right? But they're usually trend-wise pretty close. They might not be able to tell you whether it's going to be 72 or 74 tomorrow. And it might rain, it might not, but usually they got a pretty good guess. So what's the predictions for this year in particular? Going to be rainy and wet all the time? So we're switching from a La Nina to an El Nino pattern in the ocean. What's that mean for us? That means a warmer summer that's drier. So what does that do to our threat level? Right now, there's zero threat, relatively speaking. But as the summer goes on, what they're predicting is a little hotter than normal and a little drier than normal. And maybe even to the extreme level. And I know Chief will back me up on this, but what we saw in May with the predictions to what we see now at 1st of June is we had a relatively low risk through the whole season. Now they're talking drier and a higher threat clear to the coast in August, like one of the higher levels they're predicting we've seen in a long time. So it's kind of scary because what happens when there's huge fires in the Cascades, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon? What happens to resources? Stretched thin. And I don't like to talk bad, but I will tell you this, we saw this in 2020 when it happened, is because right now we are prepared. ODF has added aircraft in this year. The feds are prepared. But when they get spread thin and we get a fire on the coast, guess what's left? Nothing. Because if we're on fire, what's the rest of the state doing? It's on fire. And there you can't get anything. We found that when Lincoln City burned, when we had the fire in by Bay City. But the one that really got me was the Lincoln City fire. And I would say this. We didn't get any ODF, any federal or state resources in the first at least 24 hours. There was nothing, nobody. No overhead, no fire engines, no aircraft. There was nothing available. So it becomes an issue where you start to think of that's where this preparedness is extra important for us. Even though the threat level's lower, it can still happen here. So we need to be extra prepared to just get out of harm's way. We can replace a house. We can replace your garage. But we can't replace you. So it's really important to know when to just get out of there. Flee, listen to and we'll replace your house. Lincoln City was an anomaly, and I never thought I'd see that when I moved here. Rockaway, most days, you couldn't burn with a flamethrower. It just is, and that's one of the things we have that's nice. Our humidity, what's our humidity usually here? 80%? So I can tell you this, where I came from, my humidities would get 8 or 10%. Do you think there's a difference in how fire behavior works? Huge. It's huge. So we kind of rely on that. We don't care if people call us fog away some days because we like that. It provides a layer of safety. It also keeps us a little cooler. It does some things that are good for us. But when the east wind comes, what happens? What does our humidities do? Drops like a rock. And that's when we get in that higher danger of now our humidity's low, the temperature rises, and those are a combination for fire growth and fire behavior to increase. So we kind of watch those things. And you don't want to doom and gloom or scare people, but you have to be aware of what the facts are and what can happen. So that's why we show you. Plan, prepare, and prevent. So we can do all the things we can do. And as a community, as a fire department, as a city, we have these things that we're tasked with, and that's our job. We'll just go to questions. And then I have some things to talk about, but that are not on the slide. So talk to me. Let's start with questions. I like this slide. I just love this slide because it's true. So what do you have for me? You also have two others in the room that can help answer questions that.
When was the last wildfire near Rockaway Beach?
Well, they talk about this one behind us that happened. I don't remember what year that was. 10 or 15 years ago.
I moved here 15 years ago, and
Okay, so just
it was
before
still
that?
barren
Okay.
then, so it happened just.
It was actually in logging slash. So it was down. It was already just like, stuff that had been logged and it was dry, and it picked up into that slash. So threat-wise, it was, I would say, minimal to be able to do anything. It wasn't a true forest fire, where the canopy's burning, the underbrush, everything is getting consumed. The closest thing we've kind of had to that was what happened in Bay City in 2020, where you saw some pretty significant fire behavior. It got close to some houses. It was burning more like you would expect a large forest fire to burn. Same with Lincoln City. That was 2020. The conditions were just ripe. Everything, the vegetation was dry. The east wind came in. The humidity dropped, and it just burned. Burned through the night too, which is an interesting phenomenon. Fire doesn't like humidity. Humidity is the moisture in the air, obviously. So as the humidity comes up, the fire behavior usually drops during the night. But what we see in these large catastrophic fires is where there's conditions available that keep the humidity lower at night, and you'll see fires burning all night long. Did you get on any of those fires last year? Yeah, were they burning all day and all night? It's very hard to suppress. As firefighters, we rely on the fire laying down some so we can get ahead of it, get in front of it, find a way to suppress it. So those are our threats here. So last time, it's been a while, but you don't want to get complacent or drop your guard. The odds, yeah, I will say in Rockaway especially, fairly low. But does it mean it can't happen? No. You look at some of our geographical areas, look at Pacific View, for an example. We got uphill slope on a lot of timber and brush. You get the right start, there's a lot of houses that it would be extremely threatened with that. So, yeah, risk low, but just because it's low risk doesn't mean it's not a high risk event. So, anything else? That was a good question. We got time. We got plenty of time.
Are you going to talk about the wildfire mitigation plan that you're working on?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we can do that right now. So, Mary met with myself. Councilor Mark Tynes, also part of the group, we're working with State Fire Marshal. They're going to come out, and they're actually coming next Friday, again, for their follow-up. But we're going to start mapping. We identified 7 zones in Rockaway, all the way from Twin Rocks to Nadana, and then the beach. And they're going to come out and they're going to survey our interface. And they're going to let us know where our risks are and where we can start to do to mitigate those risks. If you would like a personal to your house visit, they'll even schedule those to come out and look at your house and see what your immediate threat is. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But from that, we'll gather the data we need to come up with a plan to how we want to attack the risk we have. It'll do a couple things. One, it'll be part of our county's community wildfire protection plan, which we just got a grant the county did last year to work on that plan, which will open up grant opportunities for us to bring in money to help with whatever our plan is. But I'm pretty excited about that. That was one of the key components when I first moved here that I wanted to see done. Coming from a wildfire background, even though I knew it was low risk, I think it was very important to get taken care of here in Rockaway. So we're definitely on that path, and the state is really taking this very serious right now, how they want to get out there in the communities. We'll be proactive. We don't mind. We'll take advantage of an opportunity. So I know, anyway, that's what's going on with that. right now. And there'll be more as you'll see it at council meetings, or we'll get it out at these preparedness meetings, what we're working on. Anybody else? Go ahead.
If there was an incident in the county or somebody were to see smoke, what is something they should do to prepare or different?
Well, that's a great question. So we have, in the county, they have, they use reverse 911, and if most of you are signed up in our Everbridge program, where we get notifications, those are the two that I would say right off the top of my head are the two best ones. So I can't remember Rockaway's RB. I'll get that back out, because everybody should have it for the, like when there's a storm or there's, yeah, maybe I'll get that to you, Scott, so you can get it in the article. That would be a good idea to get it out again. But there's you can text our Everbridge. That's the best way. And then reverse 911. I've had it work. Anybody ever had that work where you're like in Portland or something, and all of a sudden you'll get an alert that anybody that can hit that ping of that cell phone gets an alert that says there's a fire and an evacuation notice. Your cell phone will light up that you need to go. You're like, I'm in downtown Portland and I get this message. It can happen that way. Did I miss any that you're thinking of? Yeah. So Rockaway has our own Nixle, and but also, not just if you see smoke, don't want to say this. Well, I do want to say it. If you see smoke and it looks like it's a threat, what do? Call 911. I know that sounds so basic, and I know you just had an opportunity with 911 that you were just telling me beforehand, but it's important, because something I take away from the story you were just telling me is if Scott were to fall and break his leg right in front of us right now, there would be an assumption by the other 18 people in the room that somebody dialed 911. Make sure there's somebody identified that's in this room that go, well, I'm sure the mayor did it. Nah, no, chief did it. No, somebody else. And he's laying here for an hour and a half. We're going, no ambulance.
We're just assuming you're going to take care of it.
Oh. Okay, but you're right. So but there's that assumption that it's going to get taken care of. So, so what dispatch does, if Scott was on fire and I called 911 and they received that call that Scott's in City Hall and he's on fire, and then Chief calls or Mrs. Mayor calls, and when they answer 911, what's your emergency, and you say there's somebody on fire at City Hall in Rockaway, they won't just slam the phone down, but they'll say, okay, we already have received 5 calls on that. When we're sending somebody, they do it in a nice way, and they'll go to the next. So it's okay if 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people call. I'd rather have that than nobody, because that's the worst thing that can happen. So early when you can catch a wildland fire or a house fire or anything early, it's a lot easier. I can catch a wildfire at 2 trees in a bush. It's easier than before we lost the whole hill and 7 houses. We didn't do our job right. So early detection and suppression really matters.
This is a curiosity.
Sure.
When they're reporting on a fire, they oftentimes talk about percent contained.
Oh,
or how much it's contained. How do they figure that out? What is the measure?
Do you want the honest answer or the book answer? It's loaded. Okay, it's a little loaded, because until it's 100%, I'm going to be very careful here. We're going to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to set you up.
Well, it's not bad. We don't fight fire like we used to. So every day, pretty much, if there's a fire, if this whole room was on fire, and when we talk about containment, that means when it's fully contained, we have a line all the way around the fire, and we have it mopped up far enough in that the fire can't go anywhere. That's controlled. So contained means we have a line all the way around. So we got all the way around it, and controlled is 100% out. What we do is we take it as a percentage of how far we have the line. So if we're 2 walls in, we have 50% containment. That's the book answer. Sometimes we fudge those numbers a little bit to keep it open, because until it's 100% contained, there's a financial impact to it. That's my, yeah. But that's what they're really asking, is how far around the fire are you? You know, sometimes they'll tell you they're 10% contained, but we may be a lot farther along in the process than that. We may be digging line all the way around it, even though it's not quite contained yet. That night we're going to burn out 50% of the fire. So there's some give or take to how that works. And also sometimes the information, depending on what source you're getting it from, is how current it is. We had that discussion just an hour ago with Cole, is if you're looking at the National Interagency Fire Center in Boise, they have the daily situation report. Great resource where all the fires are, but the information was put in at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it comes out it come in from the night before, and you get it in the morning. It's 12-hour-old information. The fire could have doubled in size. It could have tripled in size. It could have ran over 3 more ridges and taken out the town. We don't have it, so it's older information. There's some other ones. Watch Duty's a good one. Probably the best one out there, I think, is Watch Duty. I don't know, you got a better one than Watch Duty? Everybody can download it on your phone. You can find out what the most current fire information on all the fires are active, and it's free. Gives you good information on that, because you kind of want to keep informed. Information is the most important thing we have. Let's see, what else do I have here?
Oh, sure. Go for it. And then Nancy, you're next.
That's okay. All right.
If all of our resources locally are not in Eastern Oregon or Central Oregon, how do the local fire departments around Tillamook County, how do you coordinate and work to support each other when there's a major fire?
Great question. Because we do like to, if we can, send resources. We're kind of, since we're a low risk area, we like to send our resources over east to help suppress those. So the Willamette Valley and the coast send a lot of these conflagrations, these large fires. We send a lot of the resources over east to help them. But the question then would be, well, what happens then when it comes back to us? Well, one, we leave resources back, and we backfill, and we help each other. We have very strong mutual aid agreements. And in fact, Tillamook County, we have 2 task forces predetermined in the county, that if there's a fire like in Nestucca, down in Hebo, we have a task force in the north that's pre-designated that will go down and help them. Just kind of like we do with the structure fire. When we need more engines, we ask for more engines. We have the same plan with wildland too. We keep enough home. We protect home first.
There's a caveat to that too. If the county has a task force out helping the state, Chief Hesse, as a county fire defense board chief, can make that call to the state and request them to come back if we have something.
And that's true too. We can always pull our folks back if something catastrophic were to happen here. And what's very interesting is today we had a drill with the State Fire Marshal's office. So they called all the fire defense board chiefs and requested a task force as a training exercise. So they called me this afternoon and said they needed a task force to go to, I don't remember, Gold Creek, Oregon, to the Riddle, some high school that I'd never heard of. It wasn't real. It's all made up. But just to practice how we do send resources. And we sent a couple task forces last year that we owned. We mixed and matched. We were kind of like the Island of Lost Toys, or whatever they call that. You know, we misfit toys. We used some from north, some from south, and some from the county. But we put task forces together to be able to go and help our neighbors. And someday that'll all come back at us. I know that they're there to help us. So, Nancy, I know you had a question.
Thank you. Well, ODF and experience, this is maybe not able to be addressed now, but we're buying our watershed. We're very aware. We've only got 101. Are we in this state thinking of, okay, like the beaver population? I've seen so many things in the last few years, you know, on PBS or something like that. They are so great at creating these barriers on their own, and it's been proven and studied. And this is what we're doing in Rockaway Beach with being mindful of our stewardship around us.
Great question. Yeah. I think I really like how the city's taken the approach to the watershed, and protection and sustainability are very much a part of that plan. And I love how that, so far, everything I've heard sounds really good with that to me. I know as we take the next steps, they'll be visiting with myself, and we'll have a good plan for suppression and what to do to keep it safe, clean, and green for, you know, generations to come. I do like the approach. So, amen. Yeah. What do you think, ODF? You're representing ODF now.
Yeah, right, I'll take this hat off. No, I know that I've heard a lot about beavers and some other wildlife that can actually help with that, and I don't know what their thresholds are as far as where they're able to live, or the success rates of putting them into places maybe they were historically, so not the expert on that, but I do know that it is being addressed, and I think your local Department of Fish and Wildlife would probably be able to speak to that a lot more as well, but I will say we'll take all the help we can get, so put some Nomex on the beavers.
Well, I remember hearing some things about the beavers and this project, and I just don't remember what I heard, so I don't want to say something that is not factual, but I know that nature can be your best friend too. I mean, there's good things that come with it. Yeah. Do you know anything? Nope. He says, I don't want to talk about that, and that's okay. But I know they can be beneficial. I just don't know to what extent or how, but I know it is part of the plan and being looked at. So I assume that they'll use the proper research and to take the right steps with that.
I will say that there's a lot of effort by the State Department of Forestry and a lot of other agencies to not only monitor how much fuel is on the landscape and how to be proactive, like Chief Hesse was saying, with how we can be responsible stewards of the forest and all the animals and the ecosystem, but also reduce that risk. Similarly, on the backside with some of those slides that you saw, lower intensity fires are probably a better thing. There's a lot of work and grants and stuff being done to monitor the effects after fires so we can better help to complete that circle. So I think there's a lot of really important work being done out there, not just putting the fire out, but on both bookends.
Go ahead.
And one other thing, Nancy, I know you're in the room a lot when I have attended the watershed preparedness meetings, and two things that come to mind are the word rewilding comes up, and I think that the beaver population has been explicitly mentioned in that. But in addition, one of the things that they found is that the red alder population, which is largely suppressed when it's being harvested for timber, has a much higher resistance to wildfire than the coniferous forests. Okay. So that's something else that I know that the Planning Commission has. Sorry, wrong Planning Commission. But the Source Water Protection Committee has looked at doing is trying to promote this kind of a return to a more diverse ecosystem, plants that are naturally more fire resistant, as you talked about earlier, and yeah, let's build some beaver dams.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. Go with the things that work. Yes. And I think that the approach that I've seen from everybody involved with that project so far has been positive that way, that we're going to do the right thing all the way across. And that's a great thing for us today and for future generations too. So we'll take that as a good thing. Let me look through my notes real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything I wanted to talk about. So So when we talk about suppressing fires, I don't want to get too far off in the weeds, but there's a different attitude sometimes of how we suppress fires. I can tell you, young in my career, which is back when we still had dinosaurs, I know. We didn't even have shovels then. No. But the approach we took was extremely aggressive on fire suppression. We took risks that were probably not very smart. And we had a tendency to keep fires smaller, but we risked a lot. And I don't want to say anything bad about today's fire service, but we tend to be a little more safety conscious, which is fine. We don't want to hurt anybody. We can replace. But that is one thing that's changed a little bit over the years, is we're not as aggressive in our firefighting. We've taken different tactical stances. You'll see on a lot of these fires that we're using a lot of aircraft, which is good because aircraft flying and dropping retardant or water is a lot safer than putting a boot on the ground at the bottom of the hill where the rock can run over somebody or the tree can fall on somebody. But it's kind of a risk versus benefit, and I think you'd see it like a pendulum swing. And I think we're seeing more swing back to a little more aggressive firefighting because we see these big catastrophic fires. Weather patterns have definitely changed. We're definitely hotter. We're definitely drier, especially like this year. And that can affect all that. So just something I like to say. It's more my opinion and what I think I've seen. But do we try to stop them all? Yeah, we do. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Just a question on venting. No, they're putting roofs on now and they're doing the vent on the top of the roof rather than on the sides. Is that better for fire suppression or is that worse or about the same?
Well, as long as you have a screen or something that keeps the sparks from entering.
Well, they just cover it with shingles. Is what it looks like. It's an open vent on the top of the roof.
But I haven't looked at it close enough. My fair.
Okay. I'm not exact. I can't answer that. What would you think? Please, and let me know, and I can bring it back to the group. Our whole deal with defensible space in your roofs or your vent openings is to make sure you have it covered so the sparks can't enter anywhere in those confined spaces. Because sparks just love to just crawl underneath a shingle, and one spark is all it takes to be able to cause horrific damage. So we try to watch where that is. Okay. Anybody else? No? You good? I think that's really what I wanted to talk about. Make sure you keep your defensible space, call in wildfires early. Be prepared to leave if you need to, if we need to evacuate you. Always remember Rockaway, if the roads are still intact, there's only one way in, one way out, or, we don't have a lot of options. So preparation and time really, really matter for you. Be prepared for seeing a lot of fires in the news this year. There's a high potential, doesn't mean still take somebody out with a bad campfire or a lightning strike to start it. But they're out there. So with that,